The first half of a novel feels light. You can go anywhere. A character shows up and you let them, because why not? There's room. You drop a strange object on a table in chapter 2 and move on, pleased with yourself. You hint at something in someone's past. You open a door and don't walk through it yet. It all costs nothing. Then you hit the second half and the writing gets heavy in a way that's hard to name. You sit down and instead of moving forward, you feel pulled in several directions at once. Like the book is asking you for something and you can't quite hear what. Here's what I think is happening. Everything you open in the first half is still open, and it's waiting. Hi, I'm Andrea, the founder of bibisco, the novel writing software downloaded by more than 200,000 writers around the world. And in this video, I want to talk about why the back half of a book feels like wading through something when the front half felt like flying. Because once you can see what's actually slowing you down, you can finish the scenes instead of circling them. Think about what you actually did in those early chapters. You introduce a rival, and the reader is now waiting to see them clash. That's a promise. You gave your protagonist a fear of water in one quiet line. The reader filed it away, expecting it to matter. Promise. You set up a secret between two characters, a locked room, a debt someone owes, a prophecy if you are writing that kind of book, a gun on the wall, even just a metaphorical one. Each of those was free to write. Each of them opened a small loop in the reader's mind, and loops don't close themselves. By the middle of the book, you are not carrying a story anymore. You are carrying a stack of unkept appointments. The rival has to come back. The fear of water has to be tested. The secret has to surface at the right moment in the right scene, and some part of you, even if you can't name it, knows the bill is coming due. That's the heaviness, that's the pull. When this happens, the story you tell yourself is usually about emptiness. I ran out of ideas. The well's gone dry. I peaked in Act 1. I don't think that's it, most of the time. Look at what's actually on your desk. You don't have too few ideas in the second half. You have too many that are still owed. The dryness you are feeling might be the opposite of dryness. It might be congestion. Too much open at once and no clear sense of which thing this particular scene is supposed to be paying off. You are not staring at a blank page, you are standing in front of a room full of people you promised to get back to, and you can't decide who to talk to first, so you talk to no one, and the page stays empty, which looks like running dry, but it isn't. So why does this hit so hard in the middle specifically? Here's the part that actually bites. A promise you can't see clearly is one you can't pay on purpose. So one of two things happens. Either you forget it and the reader feels the letdown even if they couldn't tell you what's missing, or you half sense it's still there, nagging, and it quietly taxes every scene you sit down to write, because somewhere in the back of your head a process is still holding all 20 of them open at once. That's the weight. It's the bookkeeping you are doing without any books. And it goes a layer deeper than just remembering them. Promises have an order. The rival can't return until after a certain thing has happened. The secret loses all its power if it comes out too early, and feels cheap if it comes out too late. The fear of water has to be planted, then ignored for a while, then sprung at the worst possible moment. So you are not only tracking what you owe, you are tracking when each one is supposed to pay off and how they sit against each other. Miss the timing and the payoff still happens technically, but it lands soft. The reader gets the scene they were waiting for and feels strangely nothing. That's the cruelest version of this problem. You did close the loop, you just closed it in the wrong place, and all that build-up leaked out on the way. This is the kind of thing nobody warns you about when you start a novel. By the way, that finishing is mostly a matter of paying back what beginning borrowed. If that reframes anything for you, a like helps other writers find it, and subscribing to the channel means the next one comes to you. I don't think the writers who finished books promised their readers less in the first half. They just kept being able to see what they had promised. The depth stayed legible to them, even at page 200. And once you put it that way, momentum in the back half stops looking like something you summon with willpower. It's more like what's left over when you are not spending half your energy holding every open thread in your head at once. When you can see the promises laid out, what's still open, what's being paid, what's coming due next, the heaviness lifts because the juggling stops. You get to spend your attention on the scene instead of on the inventory. Momentum then is mostly a byproduct of not having to remember everything. So that's what I try to build into Bibisco. Somewhere to put all of it, so your head doesn't have to be the only place it lives. When you plan something early, an object that will matter later, a gun on a wall, a map nobody's read yet, Bibisco gives it a place of its own. Objects get their own page, the same way characters do. A description, an image if you want one, and the events they are tied to. So that thing you left on the table in chapter 2 isn't floating in your memory anymore, waiting for you to remember it. It's written down with the events it's tied to, sitting there until it's needed. Then there's the timeline. It links the events of your story to the scenes where they actually happen, not loosely to a chapter, because a chapter might hold 3 different moments. So the order becomes something you can look at. The rival's return, the secret coming out, the fear getting tested. You can see them sitting in sequence, in relation to each other, instead of trying to keep all that timing straight in your head. And when you are deep in the back half, there's the analysis. It lays out the storylines, the characters, the points of view across the whole book, so you can actually see which threads have gone quiet and which one you have been paying off. The promises stop being a feeling you carry around. They turn into something on the screen that you can read. That's the whole idea. The depth is still real. You still made every one of those promises. You just don't have to hold all of it in your head at the same time. So here's the thing the back half of a novel is really trying to tell you. The first half was light because you were borrowing. The second half feels heavy because the bill arrived. And it weighs the most when you can't quite read the total, when every promise is open in your head at the same time, with no order and no place to put it down. Give the depth somewhere to live, and the second half stops feeling like waiting. It starts feeling like collecting. You'll feel it in small ways. You sit down and you know which thread this scene is for. You stop ending session with that vague sense of having forgotten something important. The payoffs start landing where you meant them to. So the scenes you have been dreading turn out to be the satisfying ones. You finish more loops than you open, week after week, until one day there aren't many left. And that, closing the last few open loops, is what finishing a novel actually feels like. If you want to write inside a tool that lets you see what you owe instead of carrying it in your head, Bibisco is free to download. The link is in the description. Thanks for watching and see you in the next video. Bye bye.